Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm going to walk you through the 2006 federal budget on infrastructure and public transit. Now, this is only one opinion of infrastructure and public transit funding. It's not the only source of an opinion or expression of the results, and would encourage you to go out and re-look at different sites from the Ontario municipalities to the different provinces on the municipality in terms of their view of funding, as well as the federal oversight around funding. You may also want to look at the Auditor General's reports on P3s, as well as other aspects of funding on the municipality level as well. This is a little bio just about myself. I'm a CPA CGA by trade. I've got 25 years in academic industry as well as financial solutions. My agenda, I'll talk about the budget 2016. I'll talk about the funds available. I'll talk about the allocation of the 2016 budgets, and I'll talk about issues facing infrastructure funding. So this is all part of the overall Liberal mandate that they basically said they're going to put about $120 billion into infrastructure over 10 years. Now the pie chart shows you the breakout between three key component or drivers. One is social infrastructure, public transit, green infrastructure. Now, if you're thinking of infrastructure, you're thinking everything from roads, bridges, wastewater treatment, as well as public transit. So what you're seeing here is on the social infrastructure, they're making commitments in the area of affordable housing, daycare, cultural and recreational facility. That gets into hockey arenas, that gets into cultural centers, and they're looking at certain things in the Inuit populations or First Nations. Now when we talk green now, which is a little bit of a misnomer here with the way the funds are working here, they're talking about wastewater, and that's getting water treatment plants. They're talking about more commitment for clean water in the First Nations. Okay. Now what you only see here is what you're not seeing here in this whole chart is key driver of any economy is exports. You're not seeing enough money put aside to expand ports, roads, or bridges that will move people around. There is a little bit of money here set aside in a new dedicated fund for transit, so basically all new funding is geared to three components. Existing funds will still exist, so Bill Canada gas tax funds, which were created by the previous government, will still exist. All they will likely do with the new mandate will try to push projects out the door quicker. The new funding still showing there is 120. Year one we're seeing $12 billion being spent, close to it. But do we know that that same makeup is going to happen over the next few years? Don't know. That's all be something up to future budgets for discussion. This is some statements from the infrastructure area in terms of the municipalities, because they have been pushing for additional funding. But what's not known is that funding typically on infrastructure project works this way. 1/3 is funded by the province, 1/3 is funded by the federal, and 1/3 is funded by the municipalities. So the municipalities themselves have to fund some of the projects themselves from their property tax dollars, and I'll get into some of the issues there as well. So the gas tax fund's staying, they're indexing it. The public transit fund will see $3.4 billion over the next 3 years, so that's $1.1 billion. That's not a lot of money in additional funding for transit projects when you look at the scope of these projects, because they're multi-million dollars and they cross geographic areas. So in general, that's not additional funding in terms of what this. The province is still going to have to match some of that, and so will the municipalities. The green fund's a little bit of a misnomer here. Because it's really striking at what the so-called climate change issues, is other words pushing the Agenda 21 or social green agenda. But the emphasis is more on wastewater treatment, and a lot of plants have been modernized as part of the initial Bill Canada Fund, which is not mentioned at all as part of the Liberals' plan. Social infrastructure, this goes into social housing, and I'll talk a bit more like this. And there's some concerns around that when I get into this a little bit more. And there's a rail strategy by looking at compliance area. So let's talk about the key issues of a country. One of the key issues of a driver is getting goods to market, both in the exports and the consumer marketplace. There's nothing in this budget that does enough to clearly define that they're going to put an emphasis on moving goods to market. Because of the way they've got it strategized, yes, some of it's on transit, which helps moves people more efficiently to work, but it's the goods that move the market which drive the revenue, which is critical. The second point on the transit lines is they have to be profitable. Just building a transit line doesn't necessarily make sense if it's not profitable and has the proper funding, both maintenance as well as the rates or fees they're charging to use that line. Social housing. There's been considerable issues in the past with mismanagement of social housing projects, whether it's funds and maintenance, and we haven't seen enough oversight in those areas. The other area in key cities like Vancouver and Toronto, there's not enough available or affordable land to build new units. That's something that's not discussed. You can throw money at a problem, but if you don't go to the root cause, you don't fix it by throwing money at the symptoms. P3s likely will come into play, but there's been issues of P3s over budgets and not on time. If you want some good examples, you're more than freely to go out and read the Ontario Auditor General's report, who condemned the use of P3s and how they've not really worked in an efficient, effective manner. Now, at the municipality level, there's a bunch of things in play, as well as the provincial level. We don't have an open and fair bidding process to ensure that contracts are rewarded fairly and in a cost-effective way. We also have issues that are basically driving the cost of government at a local level from municipality level up. That's arbitration, pension, salary costs. We need reforms that maximize dollars. Downloading costs by provinces. For example, a lot of municipalities pick up the cost of policing from the provinces, like OPP costs. Well, if they continue to increase those costs, that leaves less money for infrastructure spending, and nothing's been said around those downloading costs or whether some of those costs will be uploaded by the provinces. The big point now here as well is a lack of oversight on projects. You can make money to push projects out the door, but there should be a business case, and we should have a model in place to assess these projects to make sure that they're giving maximum benefits. And there's no clear indication just yet whether the current government will actually emphasize more analysis of these projects to ensure money is being spent. It's not to say that won't happen on oversight, likely through the Auditor General reports, whether that's provincial or federally, something may be done, but at this point in time, nothing's clearly understood what's going to happen in that area. Now, infrastructure is a key area, and it'll be talked about by the opposition parties and many other businesses in Canada will talk about. But it also has to be done in the most efficient and prudent way. Just throwing money at the symptoms on infrastructure won't fix the root cause. We have infrastructures that is getting very old that we need to replace, but there has to be the right strategy. I don't see a complete strategy with the overall budget. All I see is money being thrown around with no clear transparency in how that money will be spent. As I said, the old saying is you can fix a problem with money, but it takes something special to fix a problem when you don't have a lot of money. And I don't see anything where we're going to see a key driver here that will ensure that we're going to get value for money when it comes to infrastructure spending. Thank you.